Hello, everybody. Let me just post that I'm live. All right. Apologies, I'm a little bit late. I mistimed my bread pretty badly. It only just came out of the oven. So, today we are going to be finishing up this whole situation, which is my attempt at thick spinning some cotton on my wheel. It was not going great last night, if we're being honest. It was going pretty fucking badly. But I'm hoping that today maybe I'll do a little bit better. Because this sort of learning is, it's cumulative. You gotta put the work in. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm just gonna keep going until I finally figure this out. That's the plan. My cotton has still not arrived. It said they attempted delivery last night, which worries me. I really hope the next person actually knows how to deliver stuff to this apartment complex, because it's not necessarily intuitive. I really want my 2 pounds of ginned cotton. But that's okay. I got lots of stuff to spin in the meantime. I'm just sort of in a cotton mood, I was doing so well. So I moved everything over to the front room in my apartment. I have a studio, and there's sort of a back room and a front room. Actually, I guess I'm in the back room now. The front room is where the door is, and then my loom and usually my spinning wheel. And then there's the kitchen, which is just a hallway, and then there's the back room, which is where my bed is, where all my plants are, my dresser, and at the moment, my spinning wheel. I don't know. I was just sort of not feeling the fluorescent lights that are super bad in the front room. And it's not too bad out here. There's the daylight, which is kind of glaring, but, it's better. I was just feeling like looking at my plants today. So I went on a very long walk with my sister. I mean, I was in my wheelchair, but she was walking just around the city. It was quite nice. I don't usually go on walks anymore. Walking used to be one of my big hobbies. I just go on walks constantly. And I have insomnia, which I've had my whole life, and I found that walking around at night was a pretty great cure for insomnia, or at least something to do. But turns out that's not super safe in this city. So that's why I stopped. But I can't really go on walks now anyway. I don't know. I'm a little bit too afraid to actually go out in the middle of the night these days. So yeah, I don't do that anymore. And then I don't usually have time during the day. But today I did. Enjoyed a nice walk with my sister. Looked at the trees. A lot of trees are blooming right now, so it's very beautiful out. Oh, hi, Jack. She's sharpening her claws on the chair I'm sitting on. To be fair, it's her chair. I bought it over a decade ago now. I bought this chair, and it's been her chair ever since, and I can't ever get rid of it. It's moved across states. It's moved 8 times at this point, I think. And it's her chair, and yeah. But I'm sitting in it right now, and she's not happy with me, actually. She's giving me looks like that's my chair, and you know that. It's true. She'll probably leave me alone, though. I'm sure it's fine. Huh. So I think this is part of the seed, but I'm pulling out bits of VM out of the undyed stuff, which is kind of not good. I mean, I think it has to be part of the seed. I'm not really sure what else it could be. It's not quite as embedded in as the dyed stuff is. Like, you can pick this out, unlike the dye material. You really can't pick out the dye material. Oof, flat out there. I hope you all can't actually hear that. It's like a bunch of people honking and stuff. Anyway, yeah, I really thought that the cotton cards would sort of facilitate the removal of seed heads, but they don't at all. And in retrospect, that makes sense. Chuck. Good God, what is going on up there? I don't even know. That's crazy. Anyway, I don't remember what I was talking about. Hello, Chuck. She's here. There's her tail. Very talented. God, she just failed spectacularly at jumping into a box. Poor guy. That's still going on. What the hell is all of that? I'm honestly really curious, but I don't want to get up and look. Getting up sounds like a lot of work. Gosh. Chuck. So I've decided I'm definitely going to 2-ply this stuff. We're going to do it on stream too. Hopefully it won't tangle. I've had issues in the past when I was spinning the thread weight stuff with it tangling really badly when I turned it into a ply bracelet. And I think that the reason I was having that problem was because the twist was still active. And also, of course, it's such a thin yarn, it sort of tangles just when you look at it. What is going on out there? Okay, I have to look. My curiosity is killing me. With my luck, it's already be over. I don't know. I honestly don't see a single thing out there. I don't know why everyone was going insane honking, but I guess that's the city for you. Anyway, yeah, I am hoping that the fact that this is thicker, and also it's kind of lowish twist. It might even need more twist. I'll definitely need to do some experiments with that. Speaking of, I should check the WPI, shouldn't I? Or not WPI, I should check the twist. There we go. It's a little harder to do on singles, but it's not impossible. Sorry, this probably isn't going to be very interesting for a second. Ugh, okay, come on. I think it's about 30-degree twist. Yeah, 30 degrees of twist is what it looks like. They're still honking. What is going on? I don't understand people. I drove professionally for about 5 years before I became too disabled. And I think I maybe used my horn like 10 times that whole time. And people are just going ham outside right now. Anyway. Okay, this isn't too bad. I'm going to guess that this is the last green roll lag that I prepped because it feels a bit smoother. And I think, if I remember correctly, when I was prepping these, by the time I got to this third one, I kind of had a little bit of an understanding of how the fiber wants to be worked. It's really different from wool. It's interesting. I'll have to do some sort of side-by-side comparisons on stream at some point because the motions and the actual process of what you're doing is pretty different compared, like wool compared to cotton when you're using cotton cards. it was not intuitive for me because I was sort of just doing what wool likes to do, and that's not what cotton likes, it turns out. Not at all. I also really want to spend a bit of time looking into cotton spinning. I have in the past, and I've definitely forgotten all of it. And now that I actually have cards, I think it's worth reviewing. Probably finding some videos of Indian spinners and seeing what they're doing, because I think that is probably going to help a lot. I find that community knowledge is really one of the most valuable things that you can get in the fiber arts community. I mean, community knowledge is pretty critical either way, but like no matter what you're doing, really. But with fiber arts, it can really help a lot. Pretty much all of the snafus that I got myself into, I've gotten out of with other people's help. Oh, okay. This is really difficult again. It's definitely the prep, and I can tell because it's literally clumping up as I try to draft it, which is obviously not intended. That's sort of the opposite of what we want to be happening. But I mean, the good news is having trouble spinning a bad prep is pretty easily fixable. I just have to get better at prepping it. So my apartment smells like sourdough bread right now because it just came out of the oven and it's very nice. My cat is like determined to add as much random noises to this stream as she possibly can, along with the general public outside, it seems. So apologies for that, but it's what it is. What it is. I just realized I forgot to bring my niddy noddy out here. I was moving all my spinning stuff over here. So I might just leave all this on the bobbin. And if you're curious about the yardage or weight, you can always just check my Tumblr in a couple of days and I'll post it on there. My Tumblr, by the way, is Milkweed Man, all one word. I think pretty much everybody on this channel got there via my Tumblr because that's pretty much the only place I have any presence. But if you didn't, yeah, I post a lot of fiber art stuff on that. It's purely a fiber arts blog. Not really anything else on there. So if you're interested, go check it out. But yeah, I'll probably do that because I don't necessarily want to get up again and go grab it. So. At least it's not like breaking anymore. There was a while where it was, and that sucked. Let me open up my drink. Better than I remember it being. There's a little while where I was not really able to eat food for various reasons, and I was sort of living off of vegan protein shakes because I'm lactose intolerant, so I can't have normal protein shakes. And the thing about vegan protein shakes, and honestly just protein shakes in general, is that they are not good. They're pretty bad. So I bought like a whole bunch of different types of vegan protein shakes, basically all the ones I could get my hands on. just so that I could try and find one that, I could actually drink and that didn't taste disgusting and that wasn't super chalky. And pretty much all of them were duds except for one, which is Orgain, by the way, Orgain. I quite liked theirs. It was the least chalky and it was the least like fake sweetener flavor. It was pretty decent, like drinkable, But anyway, I had one left in my fridge, just sort of sitting there. I'm drinking it now because I don't have much else to drink besides water, which, given the state of things, I kind of don't want to be drinking tap water. That's a little scary. So, yeah. But it's not as bad as I remember. Probably because when I was like exclusively living off of them, they get worse the more you drink them. And then I haven't had any in about a couple weeks, so that is probably why. But this is not one of the better ones that I kept. It's drinkable, but it's not good. But I need some protein today anyway, so that's fine. So we have 3 more white Rolags after this. I think I'm actually gonna leave half of this and spin some of these, and then I'll probably do a little bit more of the green in between. I want some nice barber poles, and none of these are the same amount of cotton. Like I was experimenting also with how much cotton is the right amount to put on cards. Oh, this is drafting so well. So yeah, they're all different sizes. So like switching off Rolags is not going to make even amounts. So there's really no point in trying to do that. Like trying to have even stripes, which I often do try, but in this case, no point. So yeah, we're just going to have some uneven random barber pulling and then solid stripes, I imagine, occasionally. I like trying to figure out what the yarn is going to look like before it's done. I started doing that when I started spinning, and I found that it helped me make slightly more informed choices while working, because I'm not necessarily the kind of person to plan out an entire project. Like I just sort of go with the flow. A lot of the time, the fiber ends up not wanting to do what I want it to do. It wants to be something else, or I sort of lose track of the plot and stop trying to make that thing and make a different thing. So it's pretty often that I set out to make a hat and end up with a pair of socks and a bag instead. But nonetheless, I think it's helpful, at least it's been helpful for me to try and imagine what the finished product is going to look like on this current, what's the word? This current trajectory, I guess. And sometimes I'll modify it, or sometimes we'll just see if my prediction was right. In this case, I think I know where I want to go with it. So yeah, it's going to be more about whether or not my prediction was right. But yeah, I think what we're going to have is stripes and barber poles of alternating lengths, or of random lengths rather, but alternating throughout the scheme. Which sounds nice to me. I'm interested. I do love some barber poling. I don't necessarily tend to have a lot of it because I do work with a fair amount of solid colors. Like it's more often that I have a little bit of heathering, just due to inconsistencies with natural dye, and I'll often like purposefully make the heathering a little more obvious. But barber poling, if you're just spinning a bunch of green fiber, it's all going to be green. So you just have solid colors. And that's typically what I am spinning. Which I like solid colors, but barber poles, there's just something about them. They're so pretty as yarn. I don't necessarily love how they look knit or crocheted, especially crocheted. I typically don't like how that looks at all. But like it's so fun to make the yarn, so honestly, who cares? And it's not that it looks bad. I guess it's just like not quite what I'm going for ever. It's not my taste, maybe. That's the right way to put it. So last night I was talking a lot about like, what's the word? Trying to figure out how to do long draw. I told myself I was going to look into it over the night, but I didn't do that at all. But I do think that's a solid idea. And I definitely want to practice it. I just don't really have enough fiber to practice it at the moment. Like I could practice it on wool, but that's not, I don't know if that's going to help me. Wool and cotton are so different. They behave so differently. They spin up so differently. So yeah, I feel like a cotton long draw is going to be different looking for optimal results. That's just a guess though. I don't know. Like I wouldn't say I'm new to cotton spinning. I've been doing it for about 5 years on and off. But I would say I don't understand it as well as I would like to. Like I would certainly look like a novice in comparison to anybody who has spun cotton for a long time. But on the other hand, like I've seen the cotton attempts of some of my spinner friends, and this is a little bit better for sure. Because cotton is such a steep learning curve, you know. So they were giving me their early attempts, and I think they kind of all gave up after that, after the early attempt stage. It's kind of a discouraging fiber to work with at times because it just doesn't want to behave. I'm like, that's fine. I don't want to behave either. I get it. But it can be discouraging to work with. Glad all the honking has finally stopped. I'm quite curious as to whether that's actually come through on stream or if I just sounded crazy. I swear there was a ton of honking for like 15 minutes. I will say, despite all of my experiments trying to figure out the optimal amount of cotton to put on, I still didn't figure it out by the time I ran out. I think part of it is the fact that the cotton cards are quite a bit bigger than my normal cards. And so I'm already sort of like thinking of the wrong size just to begin with. So that really doesn't help things. It's like if I micromanage this, I can get it to be somewhat even, but then it just takes such a long time. And it's still not that even. But I do think I'm getting there. Slowly but surely. I don't have a lot of roll wax left. I'm doing this super skinny, messed up one, which as you can see is incredibly wispy. When I was pulling the very last set of, or the very last puni off the cards, it like broke. Like the fiber just stopped adhering to itself because it got a little too thin. And yeah, so I have one super skinny one that was just like the first little bit I had pulled off. I didn't really want to recard it. I was kind of curious what would happen, so we shall see. You know, this is actually pretty good. That's interesting. I thought it would be terrible to spin because it has like no, what's the word? Like it's not dense at all. The fibers aren't encountering really any friction when they get pulled out of the puni, but they're also behaving really nicely, which is the exact opposite of what I expected. So I'm going to have to play around with that for sure. But this is the best one I've done so far. That could be related to the fact that by the last one, I had a much better understanding. It could be that, or it could be just that this is actually a better way to do it than what I was doing. So yeah, I'm curious. We'll have to see. I'm really annoyed that my cotton did not arrive yesterday, and it's not going to ship today because it's a Sunday. Because I could be doing so many experiments. But that's fine. I'll live. Now the other thing that I need to do, and I keep forgetting about, I actually kind of meant to do it on the stream, but I totally forgot, is I want to card on my cotton cards some of the milkweed fluff that I have. So milkweed, and particularly showy milkweed, which is the kind that's native here and the kind that I have encountered. Showy milkweed has these seed pods at the top that are full of seeds and fluff. And the fluff is it's kind of like dandelions, maybe. Like it's that kind of fluff, except it's a little bit more robust. And it is spinnable, but very difficult, at least without cotton cards. I'm curious how it's going to be with cotton cards, because without, it was sort of like not really worth spinning. It was so difficult and so fiddly. And that was after like a lot of attempts, a lot of effort put into it. But I'm hoping the cotton cards will help. The only thing is they're pretty old. And I've heard, well, I've read, I suppose, that as they age, they tend to crumble a bit. So I might actually just have to wait for the milkweed to come up this year and harvest some new stuff. We'll see. But I'm hoping the stuff that I harvested 2 years ago is still good. Milkweed has 2 types of fibers, or as I said, showy milkweed does. I know that like some of them, like swamp milkweed, the fibers are just way too short to spin. That's what I've been told. But the showy milkweed fibers are fairly long. They're like about 1 inch long, that's workable, you know? The only thing is they're really difficult to turn into a spinnable put-up. I'm not really sure why, but they are. So yeah, I keep thinking about it, like in the middle of the night or on stream or at some other time when I can't actually get up and go get started. And I also kind of want to do it outside because I have a feeling it's going to launch a whole bunch of milkweed fluff all over my apartment if I do it in here. So yeah, we'll get to it. And I am curious, but I'm also lazy. But anyway, the other type of fiber that milkweed provides is a bast fiber from the stalk. It's similar to nettle fiber or flax somewhat. It's really hard to get. Like it's harder to process than flax is, 100%. And I think it's also probably harder to process than nettles because the outside, like the outer stalk of the plant, is really hard. And with nettles, it's not typically hard. It's a bit more vine-like, at least in my experience, which is limited, to be fair. But yeah, it's a difficult fiber to obtain. I've only gotten a tiny bit of it because processing it is just so labor-intensive, and I couldn't really do it. I would love to get enough milkweed bast fiber to make something out of, though. That would be one of the coolest fucking things. And it's really like soft and shiny, super durable, like most bast fibers are. I just love a good bast fiber, really. Wow, I am not going to miss working with these just god-awful Rolex. Or Punis, rather. They're so bad. The next ones will be better. I hope. Really hope. And there's so much dye stuff in here. There's just no way it's going to come out, I don't think. Like, if it didn't come out when I rinsed it, then it's probably not going to come out in the wash. So it's most likely going to have little bits of dye material embedded in it forever. Which kind of sucks. But it's just going to be a simple little bag, so I guess it doesn't actually matter. It's not like I'm going to be wearing it. If I was wearing it, like if I was spinning up stuff for a sweater or something, I would have some real concerns. But I'm not, so I don't. Just like a massive seed pod, I think. I dyed this with buckthorn berries. I think berries and not skin. I'm not sure. I did 2 batches, one with the berries and one with the skin of the berries that I had removed. And the one that had the skin was a little bit like darker and blue, like a very sort of navy blue. And I know that it faded a bit, but I don't think it would have faded to this extent. I know that I dyed this with buckthorn because there's seeds in here, and I recognize the buckthorn berry seeds. But I don't actually remember like any of that process. So it's all guesswork as always. Okay, done with the green one. We just have one left. Done with the green one. We just have one left. And this looks to be one of the better ones because it's actually balancing on my hand. If it just flops over, that means that I didn't use a lot of tension when I was making it. And also the bobbin is like pretty full. I'm pretty happy with that, honestly. Okay. So what we can do with this very last one, try and make it as even and beautiful as possible, so that it is in stark contrast with the first roll lag, which was a fucking nightmare. This one's really nice and smooth. It's definitely one of the later ones that I carded. I'm so excited to card some more and really figure out how this works. So hopefully they will deliver my cotton soon. So I am having slub problems still. And at this point, I think it's a technique issue, like a spinning technique issue rather than a carding technique issue or anything wrong with the fiber. But that's good. That means that I've really, I'm on the right track for the fiber, like for preparing it. And I just need to get a little bit more practice actually spinning it thickly. I'm learning that smoothing it over as you spin, which is something I often do on the wheel when I'm spinning wool, is not really the way to go with cotton. You kind of want to be pulling it seems, and then just letting it go. I don't know. It's odd. It's a very odd fiber to spin, especially thick. When you spin it thin, like it's so easy because just tiny, tiny, tiny amounts of fiber come out. That's just what it wants to do. But if you're trying to spin it thick, you run into issues of it wants to draft super thin, and it will at any given opportunity. And the other thing is I can't quite figure out if it's helping or hurting to let twist into the fiber as it's being spun. That's not something you want to do with wool most of the time anyway. There's a couple exceptions for particular spinning techniques. But It's it's so enigmatic. It's so hard to read. It's like starting a new like handcraft, uh, and you don't know how to read your stitches because you're too new to it. It's kind of like that. Like I can't read what is going on with this fiber at all. But I'm sure it's just lack of experience, and I'll get there. Sure. I'm very grateful that I can do these streams because I don't have a lot of motivation to spin otherwise. I'm not really sure why. I think it's like, it's somewhat painful to do. And although I enjoy doing it quite a lot, it can be difficult to willingly put myself in more pain. But the constant talking is a pretty good distraction. And I'm not really able to constantly talk to myself if I'm not streaming. So, and also like comments from people are always fun. Having a conversation is always really nice while spinning. So yeah, it helps. It helps me spin. So I'm very grateful I can do this. I wish I had like a better webcam and much better speakers and things like that, or a microphone, I guess. The quality was a bit better. But at the end of the day, the point is that I'm spinning, and I wouldn't be otherwise. So the stream facilitates that for some reason. There is so many bits of seeds in here. It's like not good. This is one of the white ones, so none of the VM in here should be from dye material because I cleaned out the cards after I finished carding all of the green. So that means it's just from the seeds, which I'm sure is also an issue I'm going to have with the stuff that I bought. Like I know that ginned cotton does not fully remove the seeds. It crushes them as it removes them, and so bits of the crushed seed is just kind of always going to be in there. But I didn't realize they would be so difficult to remove. When you're spinning thin, they just fall out because there's really not enough fiber to surround them to keep them in place. But when you're spinning thick, there is, and so they do stay in place. And they can also kind of weaken and damage that section because there's less fiber there holding it together, but also if it's sharp, over time it seems to degrade that spot a bit. Like I've gotten holes in handmade objects in spots where there was VM just sort of cutting into the fiber all the time. So it's really not ideal for multiple reasons. I wish I knew how to get it out better. I don't know if there's a way, honestly. It's possible it's just stuck in there. I've spun a couple of fine fleeces. There's a beautiful Deboulet fleece that I spun that comes to mind. I still have a lot of it because it's basically unspinnable. But it's got like, for one thing, the wool itself is incredibly fine, incredibly soft, and the strands are super thin. So it's difficult to remove stuff from it because that is the case when you're working with really fine fibers. And additionally, despite the fact that these shepherds had like luxury sheep, they were letting them go out into a thistly area and they were not jacketed. So the wool is just like full of thistles, meaning that it'll damage your hands pretty quickly. And it's really hard to get them out, and you really don't want it in the finished object because you're just gonna get like stuck by them all the time. So yeah, that fleece was like sort of a waste of $20 despite being beautiful. And I dyed it as well. before I realized it might be worth trying to card it on my cotton cards, because it is about as fine as cotton is. It's an incredibly fine and beautiful fleece, except for the fucking VM in it. But yeah, that was like one of the first fleeces I got. I learned that lesson pretty quick. And I still have not used up most of it. It does sort of comb out on my hand combs, but not entirely. And it's a huge pain the entire time. So that's like, I thought that that would be the fix. I thought that that was how I'd finally be able to process it, but it's not. It doesn't really work either. I really have no idea how to get that stuff out. I'm reaching the end of this row lag, the end of this pony, thankfully, and I have some thoughts. One is that I'm definitely getting better. Two is that having the whorl lower seems to help, but just to change things up, I'm going to put it on the medium whorl and see what happens. It really didn't work when I first was spinning this, but now that I have another hour or so of experience, let's see what happens. If it runs really thin, I need to put it back on. Yeah. Yep, it's instantly thinner. So yeah, the big whorl, the big slow whorl is what I want. That's the best way, at least for this particular setup. And it would be if I could make it work. There we go. The other thing is, this is pretty slow. And like, not because of the whorl, it's just I'm still so bad at drafting it that it's very slow going, even for a fairly bad result. I'm hoping that I get better at it. I remember when I was learning to spin flax, it was incredibly slow while I figured it out. And then once I did figure it out, it was only a little bit slower than wool. And I'm sure I could get it up to wool speed if I did enough of it. Like, wool speed is sort of my main comparison because I've done so much of it. And I haven't with anything else. All right. So we did it. We spun those 6 poonies. It was terrible, but we're done. Here's what it looks like. So I know this probably shows up on camera as, I don't know, grayish or something, but it is sort of a sage green. I think it's really pretty. And then the other one is just like undyed white. I'm just adding a little bit more twist to the end because I don't want it to fall apart. Yeah, it's got a lot of VM. I wonder if I can, yeah, there you go. See where my finger is? That's all VM. There's some more VM just everywhere. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm gonna make it into a plying bracelet, and we're gonna 2-ply it and see how that goes. And then I'll show pictures once it's washed and dried and I've taken the yardage. Just have a quick drink. Now, one thing that I am concerned about, like I mentioned earlier, is if it tangles. So fingers really crossed that it doesn't tangle. That is really what I want to avoid. And then the other thing I'm, of course, afraid of is that it just snaps. I also really hope that doesn't happen. We'll have to see. Oh, that's what fell. I was wondering. I actually need that. It's my hook. I heard something fall earlier, but I couldn't find the source of it. So I've been using this plying technique It's the Andean plying bracelet technique, which I love. It's incredibly effective. It's very smart, um, and it's very easy once you get the hand movements down. Like once you have them down, they're down. You don't have to think about it anymore. It's quite simple. However, pretty much this whole time I've been struggling with what to do with the initial end, because you can't just leave it hanging. If you leave it hanging, it will tangle, you'll never find it, and the entire bracelet is ruined. Don't ask me how I know. But so in the past, I've literally been taping it to my arm, or tying it to something on some occasions. But taping is pretty much the main thing I did. Sometimes I'd use a rubber band if I was at work or something, because we have rubber bands. I only just in the last couple of weeks realized that you can simply pinch the end the entire time, and it doesn't affect your hand shape enough to really matter, and it keeps it perfectly in place so that you don't lose it. So I don't I don't know why it took me so long to realize that, but if you are having the same troubles as me, just pinch it between your thumb and your pointer finger. And well, I guess pointer finger is actually different in some cultures. Your thumb and the finger next to your thumb. But yeah, since I started doing that, I have completely stopped having troubles with losing that end, because it really does actually completely fucking ruin it. If you lose the end, you're just screwed. You have to find a way to undo it and redo it, and it sucks. It feels kind of like detangling a super messed up warp, which is, if you've ever woven, you know what I mean. But if you haven't woven, it's just so painful. It's so miserable. Yeah. No, it broke. Okay. So I'm going to tie these together because I don't know how to attach them otherwise. Okay. I think I need to look into that. How to reattach cotton. It's got to be possible. It's possible with linen, and it was a huge pain with linen, so I think it's also got to be possible with wool, or with cotton. It's so easy with wool. I wish it was as easy as with wool. But yeah, I guess we'll just tie knots each time. I just tied a simple square knot, it's more secure than an overhand knot, but looks fairly similar. And hopefully that will not be too terribly obvious or too weak. But that says to me that I obviously had a thin spot in here, so I might need to focus a little bit more on adding more twists next time. Maybe just like treadle a little faster. That might be enough. We'll have to see. We're definitely not going to have time to ply the wool batt. I definitely want to start spinning it. I don't think we'll finish spinning the singles either. This cotton spinning has really taken quite a long time. I'm curious what the yardage is, so that I can try and figure out a hours to yardage calculation to see how doable it is to even try to spin enough cotton for a blanket. But yeah, it's definitely taking much longer than if this was wool, because I sped through double this amount in about an hour when I was doing the wool earlier. So yeah, but I'm sure it's just inexperience. That's typically how it goes. Is inexperience slows you down more than almost anything else. Look at the It's like mostly really nice and soft and smooth, and then I hit a part with VM and it's scratchy and rough and horrible, which is a bit frustrating, honestly. But it is what it is. Well, I'm very curious to see how it's going to be in the finished yarn, and I'm also very curious how much crushed up seed is in the Gen Con that I ordered. I mean, none would be nice. Oh, I broke again. Okay. I'm sort of wondering if I could sort of splice it. If you follow Sally Pointer on YouTube, she's got a couple of videos about splicing. I think it's nettle. It might be something else, but it's a plant fiber. In that case, it's a bast fiber, and she's sort of talking about how people did it in the Stone Age. I believe it might be later than that. I don't know. But yeah, talking about an ancient technique to place fibers together pre-spinning. And I think maybe that could work, but I need to rewatch the video before I try it because there were a couple of techniques and I don't remember both of them. But that might be the key. We'll have to see. It probably wouldn't be strong, and that is a concern, but I don't know. Oh, let me show you the bracelet. I still have to pull it off and put it on my hand, but it's a bracelet. It's not the prettiest one I've ever made. I don't know why it's so ugly, actually. Yeah, it doesn't matter, though. All right. Please don't break the fiber. That is all I care about. I don't think it's going to tangle. I think we're probably safe from tanglage. I think. Now that I've said that, I'm sure I've jinxed this. Knock on wood. But yeah, now breaking is my main concern. It's sort of, you have to walk a fine line with cotton because if you don't add enough fiber, if you don't add enough twist, then what happens is it falls apart when you try to ply it, especially if you're using a plying bracelet like this where there's a bit of friction from the yarn around it. So yeah, so you don't want to do too little twist because then it'll just fall to pieces. But you also don't want to do too much twist because then it will tangle like crazy. So you have to find that balance, and it's not necessarily easy. I'm definitely still figuring it out. All right, I just want to build up a little extra here. Okay. There we go. One thing I've noticed with cotton, let me tie this on. I should have started that thought later. Oh. Okay, if you're wondering how I'm keeping this strand from just going all over the place, I'm holding it in my mouth, which is also why I can't talk when I'm doing that. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I've also noticed that the twist doesn't necessarily even out the same way that it does with wool. Like with wool, the twist evens out pretty readily. It's fairly obliging in that regard. But with cotton, once you've added the twist to that section, it doesn't necessarily want to move as much as it does with wool. So that's interesting. That means you kind of have to guide the yarn or guide the twist up the yarn a little bit more carefully. So you have to be a bit more attentive, which is not a problem. I also think that holding these at different angles, there we go. I was just basically having them next to each other because that's how they're coming off the bracelet, but holding them at a slight angle, like offsetting with my finger, seems need to figure out how much tension I'm supposed to have. Let's keep going. That's too much. Maybe that'll do. Wow, this is actually quite difficult. It was definitely easier on my drop spindle, which, I mean, it's a lot slower to ply on my drop spindle, so that is not really an option. It's also a lot harder on my shoulders. I wonder if it's just because it's, it goes a little faster on the wheel, and so therefore you do have a tiny bit less control over some things. I also think the tension is too high because it's kind of yanking it out of my hands. So, all right, it's all a learning process. Yeah. I think we're kind of getting somewhere. So I have my hands quite separate, or I have the strands of yarn rather quite separated by my hands at the moment. If I let them go together, then it looks super under twisted. Probably because it is super under twisted. So I don't know. I don't really know how to fix that because I need that time to draft. Like, I don't know. I think I just need to get good. Sure, I'll figure it out. But this is definitely quite under twisted, which means that my experiment to see how durable it is not going to be a great experiment. Because we're starting off with under twisted yarn, which obviously for a blanket I would be going more for over twisted if anything, because I want it to last, especially as a cotton. This is definitely thinner than I was going for. I can tell already. I'm sure it'll still work as a bag, but yeah, I definitely got some learning to do. So. It looks nice though. I'm enjoying it. So far, it has been almost entirely barber pole. I don't think I've had any sections where it wasn't. It surprises me. I didn't think it was that evenly distributed. I was truly just randomly sending different colors of roll line. So, yeah, I was expecting a mix of both. Maybe we just haven't gotten there yet. It's quite possible. All right, here's one of the knots. Let me see what I can do to mitigate this so that it doesn't look too bad. Okay. Okay. I can't even see the knot. I can sort of feel it, I think. So that worked. That's good. If that always works, then I don't necessarily need to fuss about figuring out a better way to join them. Because you honestly can't see. All I did was lay the singles, like the ends of the knot of the singles, against this yarn, so that I could, like, so it was all smooth and everything. And yeah, it turned out invisible. So cool. Good to know. That was the knot that had thinner ends. I'm curious if the knot that had thicker ends is also going to do that. We shall have to see. Yeah, this is definitely underspun. I'm kind of surprised I didn't pick up on that while I was doing it. I didn't really do any ply back tests at any point. Hey, we got solid colors. We got 2 green singles right now. Cool. Anyway, I'm kind of surprised I didn't notice. I should have been doing ply back tests as I went, but I didn't. But good to know that 30 WPI does not seem to be enough. Not 30 WPI, 30 degrees of twist. It's on my WPI cards. I say the wrong thing most of the time. Definitely sleepy today. I haven't gotten a lot of sleep recently. I'm not even sure why, but gosh, it has been annoying. Just like laying in bed all night trying to sleep. I hate doing that. But I can't like get up and do things because, you know, I have to rest either way. If I spend the whole night like playing video games or something, I'm gonna be in so much worse shape than if I lay in bed with my eyes shut, even if I'm not sleeping. Had insomnia my entire life, as long as I can remember. And once I learned that one, things improved drastically. Because in the past, I would actually just stay up all night doing things because I knew I wasn't going to sleep. So why lay down, right? Well, it turns out laying down helps, even if you don't sleep. I learned that from the Mythbusters. Thank you, Mythbusters. I picked an earlier time to stream today, just sort of, because, I don't know, I felt like doing it earlier. But it looks like it's been pretty bad, so I don't think I'm going to do this time again, because I don't think my followers are necessarily online during this time, or during this time, whatever time I'm doing it in. So we'll probably go back to the evening ones. I mean, evening spinning is really my only choice on work days, because I get home at like 5:30 or 6, so I couldn't do a 2 p.m. spinning session anyway. I need to switch to the other foot. But yeah, probably back to, I don't know, I said that I was going to do an earlier stream for a couple of people, but then I didn't actually tell them until the day of, so yeah. Not my best idea. Oh my gosh, this is so understrung. I can really tell it's incredibly understrung. So note to self, way more twist next time. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I need to. Why is it? There we go. I guess if nothing else, I could run it through the e-spinner to add some twist. I don't really want to. That's a whole other separate processing I'm not really interested in doing. But it would work. I mean, I could also run it through the wheel again to add more twist. I think the e-spinner would just be a lot easier. problem. But it would also add an inconsistent amount of twist. So, because as the bobbin fills up, the speed changes, which means the rate of twist changes, and there's also pretty much no way to gauge that except visually. Eyes are not good enough for that, so it's sort of a dangerous game spinning on that thing. I'm really hoping that this wool batt will cooperate more than the cotton did, as I am fighting for my life with this stuff. At least for now. I'm sure it'll get better. I don't think I could get worse, so at least there's that. I mean, all of that said, though, I do like how this yarn is turning out. Like, it's 100% underspun. It needed way more twist. But nonetheless, it's like, I've spun a lot worse cotton. To put it mildly, this is not too bad of a thick cotton as I'm trying to do. So. And I do feel like by the time I got to the end, I had a pretty decent idea. I really wish I had a bit more cotton to practice on. I have a tiny, tiny bit of gin cotton from the 1 ounce that I bought at a fiber festival a couple of years ago. But I want to keep that because I would like to compare that. I have enough for like maybe 1 more thing. And yeah, it just doesn't seem worth carving that when I want to save it to sort of look at the difference when the other gin's cotton comes in. I'm just curious, really, like how much variation there is. I don't think 2 pieces of cotton is necessarily enough to draw any conclusion about anything, but nonetheless, I think it would be valuable. Why not? So yeah, I'm essentially out of cotton at the moment, which is dreadful. I want more cotton. Hopefully it will arrive when I get home from work tomorrow, and then I could probably carve some of it just on the street. It's probably the plan, and sort of show the technique that I'm attempting. I don't know if it's even the right technique, but it's like I've definitely improved. So. And I was improving like on each go through, like each booty was slightly better than the last. So that's pretty fast. Yeah. So I have hope that I can get a good prep out of this. And also spin it well. It's just not right now. That's okay. Okay, we've encountered the second knot. Now the first knot had really thin frilly ends and it also completely disappeared and you couldn't see it at all. That is what I want for this knot too, but it doesn't have thin frilly ends. I'm really curious if the frilly ends is why it worked so well or if it was just sort of not a problem to begin with. Hang on, I'm readjusting things a little bit. I don't mind being a little bit fussy, just trying to fix a knot because there's not a lot of them. So, okay, so essentially all I've done, I have no idea if you'll be able to see it. There we go. So here's the knot right there, that lump. And then I basically just held the strands alongside the singles. So that's one of the ends. And I'm just holding it alongside. And I'm doing that for both ends. Oh, wow. That's precarious. I'm doing that for both ends, and we will see if this one also disappears. The other one I couldn't even really tell where it was after I spun it. That's what for this one. The knot is a little bigger, so I don't know if it will be the case. But, oh, jeez. Okay. So let me just get this whole length done, and then I'll see if I can still see it afterwards. Okay, I can feel it, but I can't see it. It's right here. There's like a tiny bit of a bump, but there's bumps all over this yarn. siding, it fits in just fine. So that's good. Just basically just tying an overhand knot, or no, it was a square knot. I don't think an overhand would be secure enough. It might be, but anyway, I tied a square knot, and then all I did was hold the ends alongside the singles, and that was good enough for handling breaks. And that's a pretty simple thing to do, so that's good. That's that problem sorted. I'll probably still give the splicing technique I was talking about earlier a try, just out of curiosity, because maybe it's easier, but knowing that this works is nice. This section I clearly did add a lot more twist, and it's so much more obliging and working so much better. So that's good to know. It really is. It really needs to be higher twist than what I did. Okay. The very last bit tangled, but I'm thankful that that was the only part that tangled. I could deal with 6 inches of tangle, I cannot deal with 50 yards of tangle. All right. Like I said, I did forget to bring my nitty knotty out here. So we're just gonna stick this incredibly uneven bobbin, almost comically uneven. We're just gonna put it to the side and spin a bit of the wool. But yeah, here it is. And I think I was right. We have solid stripes and we have barber poles. But the thing that I wasn't expecting is that this part is all barber pole and then the rest of it is solid stripes. So it's not like barber pole stripe, barber pole stripe. It's barber pole for the entire beginning and then stripes for the end. Which I was not expecting. It's always something new. All right. So I will measure the yardage of that later when I grab my nitty knotty. My guess is 50 yards. And I think that might be a little high. All right. Now, the wool that I'm going to be using. Okay. The wool that I'm going to be using is this batt that I made a couple of days ago. It is not the most structurally sound batt I've ever made, and I regret that. But I think it'll be pretty. The first one was more structurally sound. This one I was going for pretty. Now, the first one I also Z-stripped, meaning that you tear it like so, but not all the way to the end, and then tear it like so, and just sort of, yeah, like that. I don't want to do that on this one, though, I don't think. Just because I don't actually like having a ball of pseudo roving to spin off of. I'd much rather have like a strip. So I'm just gonna like strip this one. Probably just do half is my guess, and then the next time I feel like spinning wool, I'll do the rest, apply it. The colors, I don't know how well it shows up on camera. I know everybody's computer screen shows things differently, so there's that too, but also my camera's not great. That doesn't help. But either way, the colors are mostly yellow and green and a little bit of blue. It's just what was in the bag. Just the bag of random scrap that I was using at the time. There's some merino. There is some Rhea lamb's wool. There's some anonymous white wool, but I don't know what it is. And then there's a bit of mohair. And I think that's about it. I didn't really go crazy. It's mostly the same stuff, honestly. Oh, I do want to switch this. I don't tend to spin wool on the lowest or on the biggest whorl. It just is too slow for me. So I'll put it on the medium whorl. That's pretty much the only one that I use, if I'm being honest. Like, there are occasions where I might use the other one, but rarely, very rarely indeed. Now this one I want to spin very fine. I want to get as much yardage out of it as I can. That might be a very bad decision. We'll see. I'm curious. And I might need to pre-draft this stuff. Like I said, the prep isn't great. I'm not always very good at making batts. So yeah, the prep isn't great, so I might need to pre-draft so that I can spin it fine and even. I mean, it's probably not going to be even, let's be real, but fine anyway. When the prep isn't good, I have a really hard time keeping things even. And I mean, I think that's true of pretty much everybody. It's a lot easier if the prep is decent. Switch legs. But I think it can get to the point where I literally cannot spin anything yarn if the prep is bad. So this is not too terrible though. Really need to up the tension. Oh, way too much. Okay. So I'm used to using. It's funny. I've used my e-spinner so much in the last couple of days, and you really have to yank on that thing to get the tension right. And I'm used to doing that instead of this. This particular wheel is very, like, just a slight turn does a lot. Sort of like the temperature in the shower. If you just bump it, it goes from okay temperature to boiling hot. It's very annoying. So it's a little bit like that. It's very sensitive. This is going well at the moment. It's nice and thin. There's a lot of just like little snarls in it. I don't necessarily know what that's from. And it's leading to bumps. But I honestly don't mind occasional bumps in a thin yarn, or even frequent bumps in a thin yarn, as long as it's all evenly thin. Because that added texture can be really fun. So I'll leave them in that. I think it's okay. And they're pretty well attached too. It's like the fiber that I'm spinning just got knotted in a spot. So it would be a bit of a hassle to pull them out. They're stuck in there pretty good. When you have additions like that, you do want to make sure that they're well secured, because if they fall out, you're just going to have a gap in the yarn. And it's not going to look great. And also, you know, you put it there for a reason, so it's not good if it falls out. Now, I might free play this one, because I'm spinning it so fine. I don't really have a use for a wool that's like waist weight, if I'm being honest. I don't use a lot of waist weight. I spin a lot of waist weight, but I don't use it. This is actually quite enjoyable. It's like leagues away from the cotton I was just spinning. So much easier. But, you know, that said, I do have that. Like 8 years of practice with spinning wool, and a lot less practice with spinning cotton, especially thick. So that is to be expected. I encountered my first slub. A decent ways in it, so at least the prep on this particular strip is okay. It can really depend strip to strip, because if you have a snarl in there, you know, it's only going to affect that one area. Or if you did a bad job packing down in one spot or added too much fiber, yeah, so batts can really be quite different strip to strip. Or just like inch to inch, really, depending on the consistency. If I had been carding all the wool in this, like, and then putting it in after it was carded or prepped already, it would probably be an awful lot better. But I pretty much only do that for like fancy bats or bats that I plan to sell or give away. I just can't be bothered if it's a normal bat for myself. chain ply it really. We'll have like these beautiful color transitions. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. That said, my meds are making me very sleepy, very tired. So I don't know how I'm really doing. I think we'll try and get to an hour and a half. We're at an hour 20 right now. So I'll probably get to an hour and a half and maybe finish up this strip that I'm on at that point. And then head out. That should do it. So it's a really interesting experience spinning a bat like this, where a lot of the colors in it I dyed using natural materials. Like I just encountered this long stretch of gold, and I know exactly where that gold came from. There's marigolds that I grew that I used to dye every face. I'm like, wow, the color is still beautiful. I don't know, I really like that. Put that down here. I really need to remember to drink more. My mouth gets really dry. It's sort of like at work, because I work technically a customer service job, so I'm talking to people all day, and sometimes I'm on voicemail, so that's even more talking. And if I don't have a drink next to me, I like stop being able to talk before the day is over. I have to be constantly drinking stuff. I mean, it's good for you, so well, the stuff I'm drinking isn't good for you. I drink a lot of Red Bulls and a lot of shitty work coffee. And not much else. I've been trying to drink more tea at work because I have a lot of tea, and I don't put sugar in my tea, but I do in my coffee. And of course, Red Bulls have sugar. I don't really like the sugar-free ones. The fake sugar in it tends to get the migraines, so I steer clear of that. But I don't necessarily need to be drinking massive amounts of sugar all day every day. So, trying to drink a bit more tea. And coconut water is the other thing I've been drinking a lot. The coconut water has been really great for my migraines. Like I've noticed if I drink a bunch of coconut water when I have a migraine, it helps. And I'm guessing it's the electrolytes. Although that said, other drinks that have electrolytes like Gatorade, they do not help at all when I have a migraine. So. But either way, it's also low sugar and pretty neutral. So nothing expensive though. $5 a liter. More expensive than gas, so it's not good. Yeah, so this strip is definitely a bit more sluggy, a bit less finely prepared. Like I said, it does change strip to strip, section to section. But I think it should be fine. I guess I could also self-ply this, but I don't know. I don't really want to. It would be such a thin yarn. It honestly would be a bit of a hassle to work with if I did that. I mean, I could self-ply it and then self-ply it again, but like to make a 4-ply. But then I have way less yarn. I think I'd rather have 3-ply yardage than 4-ply yardage. So the only thing I worry about is the consistency. It looks consistent to me while I'm doing it, but due to that pesky memory disorder, I don't actually remember what the thickness was earlier. And if I do a WPI card, like I don't know. The problem with WPI tests for me is that there's a lot of wiggle room, it seems like, when you're reading it. Maybe I'm just not good at it. That's a distinct possibility. But it seems to me that there's a fair amount of wiggle room, and that wiggle room is enough to make it kind of useless. So I don't tend to use them often. And the whole like keep a sample and then check it thing, I mean, I don't know. That just doesn't work for me. I find that the twist changes as it sits, you know? So then it's usually a bit thicker than what it was when you were spinning it. And then if you spin this yarn, like if you spin the active yarn to match, then once it rests, it's also going to get thicker, and then it won't match anymore. So I find that that technique also does not work for me, again, because of the margin for error. So I don't know. This is something that I've struggled with the entire time that I've been spinning. That said, I've produced some yarns that I'm pretty happy with in that time, so if it works, it works. And it does work. It's not even not consistently. But even so, like I don't usually dare to try and spin big sets of yarn because the consistency from skein to skein is always very different as well. And that's an awful lot of time and effort with that mistake before. And so now I tend to shy away from big spinning projects because I don't want them to be uneven until the yarns are not really good. My first successful TDF after I got my spinning wheel, I got a fleece, Hormo fleece, short stapled, super soft, and it was jacketed, so there's absolutely no PM. It was really beautiful. And I dyed all of it using natural dyes that I foraged or grew. And then when it came time to spin it, I don't know what the fuck happened. But I think it was my prep. I was also new to prepping fleece, and I wasn't doing a very good job of it. So what happened was that I ended up with 2 different weights of yarn. One which was about a DK weight, and one which was lace. And let me tell you, it is fucking difficult to make that work. I gave up. At this point, I've just, even though I made a whole set of naturally dyed yarns, at this point, I simply have been slowly using them up one by one, just for separate projects. They're beautiful yarns by themselves, but as a set, they don't work. The difference in weight is just so severe, it doesn't work at all. I could technically hold them together, but no, I don't have infinite yardage. And I don't want to, so I haven't done that. But yeah. Anyway, lesson learned on that one. And now I don't do that anymore. I think I'm just going to finish up this strip. And then once I'm done, we'll call it a night. And at almost an hour and a half. I think I got some good work done. I'm curious about the coffee. I'm curious how it'll look once it's been washed, too. Because I know that has a big difference. I think I should probably wash it in really hot water. With wool, I kind of just get it wet and then let it dry, and that is perfectly fine. But I'm curious if washing it in hot water will help reduce shrinkage as a finished object. You don't get a lot of shrinkage when it's really thin. And also, I haven't finished enough projects. I've spun a lot of thin yarn, but I haven't actually done anything, finished anything with that yarn. So I am not sure exactly how that works. I'm guessing there's some shrinkage post spinning. It's like if cotton shirts shrink, presumably the yarn was washed before the cotton shirt was made into fabric. Maybe that's a bold assumption. I don't know. But yeah, I kind of assume it'll shrink. But I'm hoping when it does that, that it'll compact down a little and look a little better. I don't know. That's the hope. We'll see. I don't exactly have a lot riding on this, so it's not really an issue. However it turns out, I hope it's good, but however it turns out is okay. I hope that the other strips are as obliging as the first one was. This second one doesn't really want to work with me. Like, I can get it to work because I have enough experience, but that doesn't mean that it's as easy or as nice. And it's also like more fuzzy. But I'm thinking that the main difference I'm running into here is what fibers are where and in what amounts. Because one of the wools is clearly creating a lot of halo and fuzzing up a lot, which is not really what I want in a very thin, compact, worsted spun yarn. Because you can't see all, they've been out of frame, I guess. But I am smoothing it down as I go. That's what I typically do with very thin yarns. I don't really want a bunch of flubs and I don't want much of a halo. I just want a nice, thin, compact yarn. So I'm, worsted spinning it. Wow, my pads are. I took them a while ago. I don't know why they're really affecting me now, but they are. They're making me a bit spacey, floaty. I still have chores to do, but that's not happening. The problem with weekends is that the 2 days thing is not fucking long enough. Like, I spend day one, resting a bit and also doing as many chores as I can, and then I spend day two doing as many chores as I can and then resting. And if I do anything other than that, like go to the store or get coffee with my sister or whatever, then I don't even finish my chores. Like, and then I have the whole week with a dirty apartment or do my laundry this time. I did it on Saturday, so at least there's that. And I cleaned my kitchen, but it's once again dirty somehow. I feel like my cat is cooking meals. That's the only explanation for how dirty my kitchen gets so quickly. I don't eat a lot of food. I'm in a wheelchair all day. I don't burn a lot of calories, so I'm not very hungry. So I don't eat a lot of food, and I don't cook very often. Like, I'll cook a big batch of something and then eat that for several days. So where are all of these dishes coming from? It has got to be my cat cooking while I'm at work. It's just the only explanation. I really wish she'd stop because the dishes situation is. I mean, it's not out of control. But it's annoying. That's what it is. And I can't hand wash dishes anymore. My hands are just pretty destroyed. So I can't do that. And the dishwasher, thankfully I have one. If I didn't have one, I would pretty much just be using paper plates and plastic cutlery. But the dishwasher here is very slow and not necessarily super effective. So a lot of things need multiple washes. So sometimes I make dishes out faster than I can actually put them through the dishwasher. And also, you know, loading and unloading the dishwasher, it takes some effort when you're disabled. It's not as easy at all. So, yeah, I don't know. It's shockingly difficult to keep my apartment clean. And I'm somebody who likes to clean, and I like having a clean environment. And, like, I will actively look for things to clean sometimes. Like, my go-to thing to do when I'm just up and wandering around and trying to figure out what to do is to start cleaning. So, like, given all of that, you'd think it'd be a little easier, but it's not. If I had more time, that would be one thing, but I have very little time. So, yeah, I don't know. A while ago. I think my goal with this whole YouTube spinning thing is to get enough followers that somebody will remind me when to change the hook. Because, like, it's currently in view, and I feel like there's sort of a threshold where if you have enough followers, at least somebody will compulsively mention that, and then I'll notice. That's the dream. Mostly, I just like spinning with other people. There's just something about spinning that makes it, to me anyway, a communal activity. Like, I obviously can spin alone, and most of my spinning has been alone, but I really prefer if I have somebody to talk to. Ideally, they're in person, but just in general, if I have somebody to talk to, spinning just goes so much better, and it's even more enjoyable. So that's part of why I spin that. I also do an awful lot of spinning during my fiber arts group at work. It's nice to spin and talk. All right. So we have reached the end of this strip. I'm extraordinarily tired. Fly down. So I'm not going to be doing another one as much as I'd like to. But take a look. I wonder if I can block the light a little bit. Much, but I think it's pretty, and it's more even than I was expecting. I still have all of that. Yeah, all of that. I only did 2 strips. So we might get a decent amount of yardage out of this, which would be really nice. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to head out. Thanks for watching. I hope you all have a good evening. Yeah.